Okay, good evening. Welcome to the July 22nd, 2020 North Andover Conservation Commission meeting. I'd like to just read an announcement for this evening's meeting format before we start. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, MGL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Andover Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with the right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so on their televisions by tuning to Comcast Channel 8. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of North Andover website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. If the public would like to participate in public hearings, please email your question or comment prior to or during the meeting to Amy Maxner at amaxner@northandoverma.gov. The question or comment will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly. So I just want to remind the commission members that we have a bare minimum quorum tonight, 4 of you. So if one of you drops out, we lose our quorum, so we'll have to suspend the meeting until we get that person back.
Very good. Amy, I just asked you. I admit I just got in the door from work and I didn't school myself up very quickly. Are you ready to go now at this time?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will call the July 22nd, 2020 meeting to order. It being after 7 p.m. If there are minutes available,
yes,
to be approved.
Yep, June 24th, 2020 draft meeting minutes have been transcribed and reviewed and ready for your approval.
I move to approve the meeting minutes of June 24th, 2020.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. The minutes are approved. Amy, as we go down the agenda, what I'd like to do, two things. I notice it's a busy agenda. There's a lot of items on it.
Yep.
I'm going to do everything I can to make it not a long meeting. I don't think we should be on the phone talking for 2 or 3 hours. So I'd like you, as the administrator, to open up every item as it comes along. Describe what it is,
Mm-hmm.
if necessary, or if you'd like, give a recommendation. And if it's necessary for the applicant to speak, we're going to limit every applicant to 5 minutes.
Okay.
And if the applicant doesn't have to speak, say so, and we can move right to the commissioners. Does anybody have any questions with that?
Mm-hmm.
And there being none, let's move on with 242-1716, 146 Main Street.
All right, so this is a request for an extension to the order of conditions. The commission will recall issuing an order in August of 2017 that governs the removal of an existing failing pump house and failing sewer pump station and replacing it with a below grade 1,000 gallon pump chamber duplex pump and force main and associated appurtenances. The Office of Dam Safety has required that the tank be relocated, so the applicant is working on drawing up new plans and finalizing agreements with landowners in that regard. No work has started. They will be coming back to the commission for that modification at a future date once the plans are finalized. But in the meantime, they want to make sure that the order doesn't expire. The Wetland flags have all been refreshed in the field, and the site is in compliance as no work has started. So I would recommend issuing a 1-year extension.
Very good. I'm gonna go down the line for questions as follows. I'm gonna go Joe, Deb, and Sean in that order. Joe,
No questions.
Deb,
No questions.
Sean.
No questions.
Anybody feel moved?
I move that we
So
extend.
Sean, I'll take that as Sean moves. And Deb seconds.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that sounds unanimous. 1-year extension is granted. We'll go to minor modifications, 242-1692, 1210 Osgood Street. Signature Commons for Jetta Development LLC, continued from 6/24/20.
Okay, so the commission will recall the applicants requesting permission to reduce the size of the temporary sedimentation basin on the commercial development site to allow for room to install utilities for the buildings that are going up. Commission received a revised plan and letter describing the fact that building 2 right now has a roof on it, and any day will be connected to the stormwater system. So that footprint can effectively be removed from the sediment basin. Building 3 will receive a roof in about a month, and in the meantime, the engineer notes that the foundation has the capacity to control the stormwater for that particular footprint, and would also like to reduce the basin based on that footprint. We do have project representatives here this evening, so if you have questions for them. The engineer points out in his letter that the general contractor is responsible for the integrity of the buildings and foundations during construction. And, you know, the foundations have been in place for a while now and have been subject to the elements and storm events. And in my opinion, I think we could assume that they are caretaking those foundations, you know, as it's in the best interest to do so. So I know the commission had questions about possible structural engineering implications for using those footprints for stormwater. And I guess at this point, you know, if there's questions for the project engineer, you can go ahead, but that's about as far as I can with the description.
Okay, so I'm going to who do we have on board? We have Mr. Di Benedetto on board.
Yes.
Okay, Rob, if you just stand.
Dan Cameron, sorry. Dan,
Yes,
I'm the senior PM from American Construction, general contractor.
Okay, thank you. What I'm going to ask you to do is just stand by for a minute, and I'm going to see what the questions are from the commission, and then we can go from there. So I'd like to start out with Joe Lynch.
I had raised the concern regarding the structural aspect of it, not so much the stormwater management perspective. You know, rainfalls gradually over wide areas in existing condition was that, but you concentrate that with the roof drain, and you have flows coming down near your piers. Again, it's a conservation matter. If you guys are okay with it and you don't mind any potential problem with that, that's fine. I think you've exceeded the burden as well.
Joe, I didn't get the last of what you said. There was some either interference or background noise. Could you just?
Yeah, Al, I'm getting the same. Just maybe a reminder to everybody, unless we're actually speaking or preparing to speak, everybody should be muted to minimize that background noise. Did that come across?
That I heard that.
Okay.
So do you mind saying that one more time, please, Joe?
Again, I'm not. You know, if the contractor and the developer is not concerned with the structural aspect of that, the use of the foundations for stormwater management really bears up to the standard. So I guess we have no problem with that.
Are you satisfied with the letter from Hancock
Yes.
that describes their position on it?
Yes, but there's a concern if the structural engineer declines to start attesting to anything of that sort. But really, it's not
Right.
not a conservation issue. If they're causing damage through stormwater management uses, then so be it. They have to fix it.
Understood.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Deb, any questions or comments?
No questions.
Sean?
No, sir.
All right. There don't seem to be any more questions, and I don't have any at this time. Amy, are you good?
Sorry, I was
That's
muted.
okay.
Yeah,
That's
so,
okay.
I would recommend approving the modification with a couple of conditions.
Okay, go ahead.
One being that the erosion control monitor be on site during basin reduction earthwork to verify final footprint and base of the basin when complete and report so to the commission. Continue monitoring the effluent of the basin into the frac tank as previously required, and then contact the conservation department when building roofs are being tied to the stormwater system.
That sounds good. Does anybody want to structure that into a motion?
Yeah, I move that we adopt the minor modification with all of those conditions entered into the record.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There be as none. All those in favor say aye.
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 And I don't hear
Aye.
any in opposition. Yeah, there it is. We have three. The motion carries. You're all set on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're gonna move right down to 242-1764, 137 Andover Street. Trustees of reservations.
Okay, so the commission will recall issuing an order of conditions in December of 2019 that governs the construction of a gravel access driveway off of Chickering Road to serve proposed gravel and grassed overflow parking for the Stevens Coolidge Estate and associated stormwater system and plantings. Work related to the Chickering Road curb cut gravel access drive, stormwater infiltration basin, and associated grading and landscaping will take place in the 100-foot buffer zone to BVW. Work has commenced on the site, and the site is currently in compliance with the order. The modification this evening involves removal of an abandoned three-sided concrete silage pit located about 35 feet from the BVW at the southwest side of the site, which is west of the proposed access drive. It's that long linear channel type wetland on the west side. Regrading of that area to a maximum of 3-to-1 slope, fine grading by hand, sowing with a native seed mix, and the installation of an erosion control blanket. There's plenty of native on-site soils in stockpile at the moment to be used for reuse in this area, as the project narrative mentions. We have project representatives here with us this evening. You have questions, but I've been out on the site with project team, and it's just concrete forms in the landscape that serve no purpose, and they're really an eyesore. So
Okay, so in keeping with the way we're gonna run the meeting, before we go to the applicants, Amy, I'd like you to give us your recommendation, and then we'll go to the commission.
So I would recommend approving the modification with the following additional conditions. To keep in compliance with the commission's standard condition that slopes be 2-to-1, no greater than 2-to-1, then we would condition that the Silage pit area would be a 2-to-1 slope instead of 3-to-1. Conservation staff review the additional erosion controls to envelop that part of the work before construction. And the demolished concrete to be removed from the site and disposed of at an appropriate facility, and concrete cannot be buried. And then invoice for the native seed mix be provided prior to sowing.
Okay, Joe Lynch.
I understand completely what they're asking for. It's kind of a shame where you've got an agricultural relic that's, so much a part of the property that can't be preserved in some fashion, but I can see where it's located being a danger and why they want to remove it. 35 feet at its closest, is that what you said, Deb?
Mm-hmm.
Amy?
Yep.
All right, so we're actually taking a structure out in the no-build zone, so it's probably not a bad thing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good, all set.
Okay, thank you. Deb?
No questions.
Thank you. Sean?
And as far as the structure, is it in the wetland right now?
No, it's in the buffer zone, 35 feet at its closest point to the wetland.
And what's it being moved to?
It's just being demolished.
Just being demolished, yeah. So nothing's going to be rebuilt anywhere to replace it?
No.
No, it's just aesthetic.
Yeah.
No questions. No other questions.
And I don't have any questions. I understand what a silage pit is and why we use them and why it was there. It was obviously designed to store silage for feeding the cattle. And as I agree with Joe, it is a shame, but it also isn't going to. It probably will enhance the area by removing it. So I also have no objection. I don't have any questions of the applicants. If anybody on the commission has questions, ask them. If not, let's get a motion going.
I move that we grant modification with conditions stated by Amy for the record.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is unanimous. Carries. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
242-1770-456 Summer Street, Carlstrom.
Okay. Commission will recall issuing an order of conditions in November of 2019 that governs the construction of a 36 by 24 detached garage, associated grading, driveway extension and repaving, infiltration trench for the driveway edge and garage roof, and perimeter fencing. That work will take place within the 100-foot buffer zone to BBW, but outside the 25 and the 50, with the garage being 51 feet from the BBW at its closest point. The order of conditions also acknowledged that the plan showed an in-ground pool proposed behind the house, the existing house, but outside the 100-foot buffer zone, and that the associated construction access was to take place off of Farnham Street in order to avoid work in the buffer zone to construct that pool. This evening, the modification is requesting construction access to come off of Summer Street up the driveway in the buffer zone, and additional erosion controls are proposed along the edge of the driveway to allow for, to protect the wetland area. And the reasoning is twofold. The applicant didn't want to have her manicured lawn destroyed, and the contractor indicated that this route was easier and more efficient. The pool remains in the original location outside of the buffer zone. We have project representative here this evening if you have any questions, or I can just give you my recommendation.
Why don't you give us the recommendation and then we'll go to the commission.
Okay, so I would approve the modification with the following conditions. That stockpiling should remain outside the buffer or immediately loaded into a dump truck for removal, and erosion controls be installed for the entire length of the driveway and must stay in place until all areas of disturbance are fully stabilized and only removed with Conservation Department staff approval. And I should add to that a pre-construction meeting inspecting installation of erosion controls as well.
Okay, Joe.
Sorry, had to unmute. I have no questions. I remember some debate, some lengthy debate during the actual hearing on this in the trade-off of preserving trees in the backyard and not destroying the lawn. But in the same token, I think the work was mostly concerning the garage. Now the garage is still proposed, right? But as a future phase beyond, after the pool is built.
That's what I understand.
Okay. Since it's in an area that's going to be disturbed anyway, I don't see any harm in the modification. All set.
Very good, thank you. Deb.
No questions.
Thank you. Sean.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Amy.
Yeah.
If you know, what is the bond? What are we holding for a bond on this project?
Let me check. I can check real quick.
Okay.
Okay, let's see here. Mm-hmm. 3,000?
3,000. Okay, very good. That's fine. If nobody has any other questions, I think we're ready to entertain a motion.
Actually, now that you asked that question, Al,
Okay. Yes.
would the commission expect the bond to be paid before the pool starts?
There's no bond been filed yet?
No, because it was technically related to the garage, and we were assuming that the pool would be completely out of the buffer. So
Yeah, no, I think absolutely everything has to be in order before construction starts, without question.
all right.
We don't make exceptions on that.
Okay.
That's one of those box check items. I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, it's more than just a technicality. The reality is the pool work itself was outside of the buffer zone and therefore maybe, not in question for a bond. But now that the access is coming in that other area, in reality, the project has begun.
Yeah.
What will be the garage project, because they are disturbing that. So the bond has to be done.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joe. Anybody else? Any other comments?
No, sir.
Okay, I hear none. If I got it wrong, yell at me. So I think we're ready for a motion.
I move that we grant the modification with the conditions cited by Amy for the record.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. It passes unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, moving right along, we're going to go to 242-1782, 800 Mass Ave, Warden.
The commission will recall issuing an order of conditions this past June that governs the construction of a 550-foot square foot pervious patio and associated landscaping beds, parking lot expansion and associated landscape retaining wall, walkway, platform landing, and replacement of a 6-inch building drain, removal of trees, and that work is in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. The other part of the project that is out of the buffer involves installation of up to 6 geothermal wells and associated temporary settling basins and sealed receiving dumpsters and trenching for conduit connections. the modification request this evening is to eliminate special condition number 48 that reads, prior to advancing of any geothermal wells, the proposed paver patio and fieldstone wall shall be constructed. The reasons listed in their letter, that they'd like to advance the wells this season so that they can heat the building through the winter. And then they mentioned fundraising further for the proposed patio. So they'd like to be able to start work on the geothermal wells this season.
Okay.
And we have a project representative here this evening if you'd like to ask them questions.
Okay. Again, just stand by on that. I'd like to hear your recommendation, and then I'm going to go to the commission.
Well, I think I'm not exactly sure what the reasoning is. You know, what was the rationale of acquiring the patio and the fieldstone wall first? But I think because the wells are outside the buffer zone, I think it's a reasonable request, and I think it's reasonable to allow them to proceed with the wells. But you know, with requiring them to meet all of the pre-construction requirements, you know, bond payment and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Thank you. Joe Lynch.
Yeah, I agree with everything Amy said. I think there was a lot of back and forth because I believe the wells were originally proposed out in the backyard area, and that may be. But I know pretty early on in the hearing process they were moved up to the parking lot area and outside the 100.
Right.
But part of it was the additional work on expanding the parking area, the retaining wall back there, the concrete walkway and platform to get into the building, and handicapped parking area up near the building. I mean, all that's inside the 100. So again, that's likely to all be done. That is jurisdictional. So the wells are outside. That's the same reason the bond needs to be posted. But I agree that you don't need to build a patio on this restoration area because of the patio as part of that geothermal work. And even the expanded parking area in the handicapped parking in the ramp and the platform, none of that would even require that restoration be done first. So I don't see how they relate, and I think we probably could relax that condition.
Very good. Thank you. Deb.
Yeah, we have Deb. Oh, boy. Hope so.
I know she's there somewhere. We'll wait.
She's muted.
Oh, Deb, you're muted.
She didn't resign, did she?
No. Star, is it star?
Middle of the meeting?
No, I checked at the start of the meeting. She's still with us.
Yeah, star 6, Deb.
Or we might just have technical issues where she's off the line.
Oh, she back?
Okay, could you
Yeah.
hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with Amy's assessment of the project, and I have no further questions.
Okay. Thank you, Deb. Sean.
No questions.
Okay. Amy, it doesn't sound like there's any opposition to this, so I'm going to ask for a motion.
Okay.
Well, on behalf of the applicant, this is Jimmy D'Angelo. I just would like you to just reconsider the posting of the bond immediately, given that the Historical Society hasn't raised the money for the patio, and there's going to be no work inside the 100-foot jurisdictional area. None of the regrading, none of the access, and none of the walkway. It's just the geothermal well work, just to get the drill in there. And I understood the rationale of the commission that they wanted the patio work to be done in the dry. And so we're scheduling it for next summer and would raise the money to go get it done next summer and would post the bond for the work before we started it. Before we start the geothermal work, though, however, we would install this filtration sock at the 100-foot barrier, which was requested to make sure that none of the geothermal work impacted inside the jurisdictional area. So it's your call, but it's my I needed to at least state the case on behalf of the Historical Society to request that the bond be delayed until we start the work for the inside the 100-foot buffer.
All right, let
Just
me,
for Al, I
let
gotta,
me, go ahead.
yeah, just to make sure we're clear on it. So the geotechnical work requires two quote-unquote dug detention areas for slurry, tailings, and water, and they're shown on the plan. And in order to do the one that's furthest outside of the paved area, existing paved area, you're cutting into a hillside, building a retaining wall, and in fact, that work as part of carrying out your plan and using your detention areas necessitates work within the 100. Therefore, the bond's required right up front.
All right, so I don't have the plan in front of me, but my recollection is that work was outside the 100.
The work is outside the 100, but when you look at where your dug detention area is shown on the plan, it necessitates the construction of the retaining wall and some excavation and grading of that hillside in order to, to fit that in. And to do that, that work is extending 20, 30, 40 feet into the 100-foot jurisdictional area. So even though you're not building the walkway or the handicap ramp or the pad, all that grading work is being done as part of your slurry management for your drilling. So I say absolutely the bond is necessary up front.
Okay, Joe, thank you. Deb?
No further questions.
Okay, any position on the bond?
I'm in agreement with Joe.
Thank you kindly. Sean?
No questions. I agree with Deb and Joe's perspective as well.
Okay, so
So Amy, what are we looking for? Are we looking for simply to strike condition number 49 from the order? Is that the modification?
Yeah,
So moved.
Second.
Second.
hold on, discussion.
48. I think it's 48.
Yeah, I read it as special
48,
condition number 48, 48.
48.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Sorry.
Okay, so Joe, we have a motion and a second to strike condition 48. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes.
But striking of that condition will have no impact on the rest of the order, and it will not stay the requirement for the bond. Do I understand that as well?
That is correct.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? I hear none. All those in favor of Joe's motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And it's unanimous. So
Right.
that the motion passes. Okay, thank you all for that.
Thank you.
Okay, let me move down the line here, Amy. I have one request for determination of applicability for 206 Olympic Lane, Sidell, continued from 5/27/20.
So the commission will recall that this is a request to remove 9 large white pines within priority habitat, a second 100-foot of the riverfront area, and in the 25-foot no disturb zone. Commission had a lengthy discussion at its May meeting and voted to continue the hearing and instructed the applicant to file a notice of intent with a replanting plan prepared by a wetland professional. The applicant has asked that the commission close the hearing and issue a formal decision. So I believe that would be a positive number 1 and number 2, determination of applicability requiring a notice of intent.
Okay, I just want to be clear on this because I was at the last meeting. I was part of that lengthy discussion. So we continued this for 3 weeks, and we explained to the applicant that we were going to, if we voted, this was going to be a positive, and that he should take advantage of the 3-week period and start work on an NOI. And the applicant has not done that, but rather wants us to make a formal finding of positive. Do I understand that correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I don't think I need to hear any more. Joe Lynch.
I don't understand the strategy, but it's not up to me to understand the strategy. Just understand he wants a positive.
I mean, that's the way I'm getting it. I mean, we were pretty clear at the meeting that it was lengthy, and we're not going to go through it again. That's for sure.
I read the report, and I don't get that out of the report. What I get out of the report is likely to be the basis for what his NOI will say, is that he's going to cut the trees down, hoist them out with a crane,
yeah,
and not do any ground disturbance. And if that were included, and if this report is now part of the
that was part of the RDA, yes, it was in the beginning.
So if he's cutting them and hoisting them out, craning them out, and with no deviation from that, why is this a positive?
Because they're in a priority habitat. 2 of them are in riverfront, and 7 are in the no disturb zone.
Okay, so it's not so much ground disturbance; it's simply habitat.
And also, Joe, we had no viable planting plan or replanting plan, or we didn't have any type of a report from a wetland scientist or a soil scientist. We didn't have anything. We had a loosely written opinion by an arborist.
This may be that same report from way back then, because that's exactly their position, even in this attachment that we got for this meeting. He does differ from that.
I mean, I like I said, I'm not going to redo it. We put an hour into this thing last time, and I don't think it's necessary to do it again.
My preface was I don't understand the strategy, but yeah, it's a positive.
Okay, let me move down if you don't mind. Deb.
No question.
Okay, Sean.
No questions.
Okay, I'm going to ask for Amy's recommendation. Amy's recommendation is to close the hearing and issue a positive 1 and 2, requiring an NOI and a replanting plan prepared by a professional wetland consultant. I'm looking for a motion at this time.
Do we get to comment at all?
Who am I speaking to?
My name is James MacArthur with Professional Environmental Services, LLC, the writer of that report, who is more than just an arborist.
I'll give you 5 minutes, and then there'll be no more comment. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't believe we are looking for a positive. What we're looking for is that these are all hazardous trees, which have a target potential of the homeowner's property, house, car, driveway, backyard, with a high potential of injury to person and personal property. Part of my career, I was the state forester for the state of Massachusetts. I was the system arborist for National Grid. I served on the Lynn Conservation Commission and was their conservation agent while I served on the board for 4 years. And I served on the State Land Reclamation Board for 8 years. I have a degree in forestry from the University of Massachusetts and a very varied background in this field, besides owning my own consulting business right now. Our request is that we do not understand why you're giving it a positive when in your own request for tree removals, you state the Conservation Commission recognizes the potential hazards that dead, dying, and compromised trees can pose to safety and property. As such, the commission has established the following protocol to address instances where a single tree or perhaps a small number of trees may pose a hazard to safety and property. There are only 7 trees that fall within the 200 buffer strip of the Boston Brook. Your statement goes on to say, tree removal request protocol. Any person seeking permission to remove or cut a potentially hazardous tree or trees within 100 feet of the wetland or 200 of a river perennial stream shall send a letter to the North Andover Conservation Commission. Include with the letter photographs clearly showing the trees they are seeking to remove and indicate who will be doing the work. All of that was done in the report. Instead of a letter, we asked for a DOA. So we've met all of the guidelines or exceeded all of the guidelines within your tree removal request protocol for hazardous trees. So I don't understand why you're coming back with a positive. When they are dangerous
I'll
and
explain
somebody
part
can
of
get.
it. Yeah, we're not saying you can't cut them down. We're saying in order to cut them down, we want some additional conditions assigned to the work. They're all in priority habitat. All are within the 100-foot riparian zone. 7 are within the 25-foot no disturb. It requires a lot more than what you just recited, and the commission debated this for over an hour at the last meeting. We wanted a planting plan prepared by a wetland scientist, and we wanted to know about soils. There's too much that we don't know here. This exceeds the protocol.
Why do you need on soils when they're all going to be? There's not going to be any impact to the ground at all, and the stocking level of the plant material that is already there far exceeds any stocking. You plant trees, they're all going to die because there's not enough nutrient in the soil to support all of that vegetation that's currently there with the additional trees.
Right. This is the kind of information that we have, and we're looking for more than that. We're looking for what else would be a better suit to be planted there. Maybe not trees, maybe some low bush or some high bush. We don't know. We want it worked. That was going to be part of the order of conditions. Like I said, you probably should have read the minutes of the meeting and prepared yourself before you came here tonight. If you had read the minutes, you'd understand what we asked for and what we wanted and what our opinions are.
Okay, well, I think that all goes way above and beyond your tree removal request protocol.
As I said, our protocol is a guideline. Each project stands alone on its own. We rule on each project individually. The protocol is not a concrete document. It's a guideline, and this exceeds that.
You're asking a private property owner who has. He's not developing the lot. He's not generating a profit off it. He's looking to protect his family. You're asking him to go through all of these additional expenses for no reason at all, because there's no impact to the soil.
Well, we just told you that it's not for no reason at all. We feel it's for very valid reasons. We don't take our position here lightly, and I'm a little insulted by your position here, sir. So you can stand down, and I'll go back to the commission to see if they have any additional comments or questions of you. Joe Lynch.
I think what's not being clearly stated here is that an RDA does not trigger natural heritage. And we've got priority habitat out here that we know is real habitat and it's vulnerable. And that alteration of tree canopy and shade and growth and whether you disturb it or not may have an impact. And we don't know what that impact is because it hasn't been explored and it didn't trigger natural heritage. But filing NOI does. Now, they could have on their own filed with natural heritage regardless of it not being an NOI. And they could have submitted any feedback from natural heritage as to whether there's impact or not as supporting information or not supporting information. But they could have submitted it to us or they could have requested it. So in order to have that happen, we can either table this or continue to a future meeting and with the full recommendation that they file with natural heritage on their own, get the document telling us whether there's an impact from their perspective or not. Because if there is no habitat impact and natural heritage is satisfied, then we may be able to forego the OI. We don't have that information right now because nobody's requested it. Nobody on their end has taken the initiative to get that in advance for us to consider. So as it stands now, it is an impact that we see onto a priority habitat. It's clearly a positive. But if they had documentation from Natural Heritage that said the take was, or that there was no take, no impact, then we could add that to the record and maybe reach a different conclusion. But right now, we don't have anything. Does that summarize it, Al?
You know, it summarizes the position, but we were looking for, as part of the NOI, a replanting plan prepared by a professional wetland consultant. That would require coordinating with Heritage, and that would also require soils analysis, which is SOP for qualified wetland scientists. So you know, again, do we want to keep this? Do we want to continue to debate this ad nauseum for the next 4 weeks? I don't think so.
No, I don't. And it doesn't sound like the applicant's representative is inclined to understand the sensitivity that we understand. And if that's the case, all we're doing is spinning our wheels. So I agree. I think we put this to bed. We made our case clear, and we put it to bed tonight.
Okay, thank you. Deb.
No further questions.
Thank you, Sean.
Nothing else.
Okay, Joe. I'm prepared to entertain a motion.
I move that we issue make a positive determination, citing. I don't have the document in front of me, but the citation that Amy stated earlier tonight with regards to you know, what type of
Yeah, number 1 and number 2.
Thank you. That's the motion.
So
Second.
you motioned to close the hearing too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. It's a positive 1 and 2, requiring an NOI and replanting plan prepared by a wetland consultant. Thank you.
Okay.
Next on the agenda, under notices of intent, is 242-1787-135 North Ramp Road.
Commission received a request for a continuance to the August 12th meeting. Just as a quick update for what has happened since the last meeting, Vice Chairman Al Manzi and Sean McDonough performed a site inspection on Wednesday, July 15th. The applicant and Conservation Department is in the midst of research and gathering documentation on this property, correspondence, what have you, and trying to chronicleize that. And based on the discussion at the last meeting, in terms of a third-party peer review, I've made contact with GEI to assist the commission in formulating a sensible scope of work for third-party peer review related to wetland impacts, contamination, and stormwater review. And I'm waiting to hear back from the third-party peer review on that front. So with all of that still in the air, the applicant asked for continuance.
Okay, let me just make a real quick comment here. Sean and I did do a site inspection, and you know, based on what we saw, this is a lot bigger than we thought. And so I had conversation with Amy, and I think I want to encourage everybody on the commission, including Mr. Saboulis, to conduct yet another site visit there. I don't think anybody can adequately understand what it is we're being asked to do and what the existing conditions on the ground are without going on site and really taking a look at it. And I'd be happy to go back a second and a third time to observe. I think this is a project that's going to really require boots on the ground, and all of our attention. So that's all I have to say, and I have no objection, of course, to the continuance. Joe?
No questions.
Thank you. Deb?
No questions.
Thank you. Sean?
No questions, but just to echo your thoughts, Al, it really is a remarkable situation out there as far as the amount of glass that exists. It's truly a hill or a mountain. And the amount of the area it takes up and the height of it, we're talking acres, and we're talking 50 to 100 feet high. It's remarkable.
I couldn't agree more. I've never seen anything like it.
I had heard about it over the years, but I thought people had exaggerated it, and I don't think they exaggerated. I think they should have described it even more, because it's I wouldn't have not believed it if I didn't see it with my own two eyes. And even when I was on it, I didn't even realize I was on it for 45 minutes, because it just felt like I was on terra firma.
Until we looked over the edge.
Yeah, so you look down and you see that there's pavement almost 100 feet down on one side.
100 feet or more at some point.
Yep.
So I think that as much as I want to encourage everyone to visit the site, I also can't underscore how important the research is going to be to search out any and all documentation on this place. No matter where it comes from, we really need to understand the history, because the history is going to help us determine and make a reasonable decision. And we shouldn't rush into this decision. This thing's been going on for more than 25 years, and we're not going to solve it in a month or 2 months or 3 months. So I think we got to get out there, look at it, and then to start interpreting the data as it comes in.
Okay.
So there's a request to continue to what date? What date are you looking for?
August 12th.
Okay,
So moved.
Motion and a second to go to August 12th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I hear none. That's unanimous. The motion passes August 12th. Thank you.
Get over on the plate a little?
Okay.
Okay. Continuing on notices of intent, I have on my list 1, 2, 3. I have 4 notices that don't appear to have DEP file numbers.
2 out of 4 do.
Okay, so 40 Ridge Way, does that have a file number?
Not yet.
Okay, so 40 Ridge Way has no file number.
All right.
Amy, how do you want to handle that?
Well, Dennis Gricci, the applicant's representative, is here this evening. I think we should at least open it up.
Okay.
And the commission will recall that this was a request for determination of applicability at the last meeting, and the commission felt uncomfortable permitting the in-ground pool that way and asked for a notice of intent.
Okay.
So basically, they've resubmitted under NOI. They've provided additional information on the plan relative to the proposed retaining wall and drainage, direction. And it's pretty much the same project.
Okay, no, I remember the discussion on this, Amy, and I appreciate your recommendation. Why don't if the applicant wants to speak, I have absolutely no objection. We're going to adhere to the 5-minute rule, and we'll go from there. So, Amy, just to make it clear, your recommendation is to close an issue if we had a DEP number, and you have an OOC ready to go if we could close, but it doesn't appear that we can, right?
That's up to the commission. I mean, in all reality, the DEP doesn't care about in-ground pools in backyards. But
no, I understand, but procedurally, we don't close when we're absent a DEP number.
Yeah.
But let me go down the before the applicant speaks. If you'd allow me, let me go down to commission first and get a feel, take the temperature here. Joe Lynch, what's your position here on this?
Yeah, I remember this as the RDA, and it doesn't differs greatly, maybe only subtly. like the restoration area. But yeah, it's more than just procedure. I mean, DEP number is an essential part of the proceedings. We need it. We typically want to put any record, any comments that they may or may not have into the record. And by doing it prematurely, we deny our opportunity to do that. But so that's no question closing, but we just need to be patient, or they need to be nudged to get it to happen.
Agreed. Okay, thank you, Joe. Deb.
I'm in agreement with the assessment that Joe put forth.
Okay, Sean.
I don't have any questions at this point. There are, Amy, no waivers sought here. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Yep. No, I don't have any other questions at this point.
Okay. Amy, it doesn't sound like we're going to close it without the DEP number. So
Okay.
Up to you if either you or the applicant want to be heard. They have the right to be heard. Is it necessary at this time? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Dennis, do you have anything to add?
I don't. I know DEP has received the application and the check. They deposited the check last week. And I have reached out to DEP. Have not heard back regarding the file number. If there's any way the commission could close tonight, we would appreciate it. But I've heard the comments from the commissioners, so I understand the position of the commission.
Dennis, Amy has an order of conditions already drafted. So the minute we get the DEP number at the very next meeting, we can close an issue in the same night. That's really the best I think we can offer you. I apologize on behalf of not having the number.
No, I totally understand. I will call DEP again tomorrow and see if they can expedite that or push that number through.
All right, thank you. So I think that we should probably continue this to the next meeting. Just need you to make the request.
I request that this be continued to the next meting.
So
okay,
moved.
thank you.
Second.
Hold on. What else did you want to say?
I just confirming the date of that
8/12,
meeting.
August
Thank
12th.
you.
Yep. So Sean moved, Deb seconded.
Hold on, Amy. So did you say August 12th?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. August 12th. So a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. 40 Ridgeways continued to August 12th. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, what about Hawthorne Place, Amy? Does that have a DEP number?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Okay.
242-1789.
1789 for 35 Hawthorne Place. Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. 35. Amy, do you want to
Sure.
give us an overview of what this is?
Sure. So this is a proposed in-ground pool. It has no associated patio with it, so it would just be the pool with a coping and lawn. It's outside of the 50-foot no-build zone and the 200-foot riverfront area and floodplain. Stockpile area is shown on the plan, and the driveway would be the construction access. Wetland delineation was performed by Norse, and I reviewed it in the field, and I found that to be accurate delineation. The pool is located such that it complies with the front yard zoning setback. So the applicant had played with its position and realized per zoning it needed to be shifted so that it was at least parallel with the house to be compliant with zoning, and he passed that by the building inspector and received a positive feedback on that. So I drafted a decision for you this evening, and I really don't have any other comments. The project, I mean, the property was before the commission in October of 1994 to construct the house. And at that time, a waiver to the 50-foot no-build zone was granted for the lot to allow the house to be built within the zone. And a certificate of compliance was issued in July of 1996. And then in September of 2014, a small project permit was issued for installation of an 8x8 storage shed outside of the 50-foot no-build zone.
Okay, very good. I'm going to go right to the commission with questions.
Okay.
Joe Lynch.
Don't think I have any questions. I'm just kind of a little confused. I'm looking at the plan. The plan is dated July 8th, 2020. I think he just signed it July 8th, 2000. So this is not
Oh, yeah, no, we have
signed it wrong, that's all.
a correct date for signature.
Okay,
With-
sorry,
yeah.
that's fine. We're not dealing with an old plan that someone's used to superimpose.
Oh, no.
This is a current plan. Okay, I'm all set.
Yep.
That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. Deb.
No questions.
Thank you, Deb. Sean.
I don't know what were the commissioners thinking in 1996 when they waived the 50 foot to allow them to put a house that close to a wetland?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I can tell you I was on the commission in 1996, but I don't remember this house.
Yeah. Well, it looks like if the pool is so far away, it looks fine to me. I think it's interesting they have grass going right up to the edge. I thought maybe that's because it was so close to a buffer zone or something, but that's certainly not the case. So I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Amy's recommending that we close an issue. We do have a DEP number, 242-1789. Does
Yes.
anybody feel moved?
So moved.
To
Second.
close.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close an issue. Any further discussion? There's none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. It's closed.
Okay. So the commission will review the draft decision later this evening after we get through the rest of the agenda.
Provided we get through it there, girl.
We will.
All right.
Okay.
Let's keep moving.
Yep.
Tell me about 15 Carriage Chase Road. Does that have a DEP number?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Right.
242-1788.
Excellent. Okay. 242-1788, 15 Carriage Chase Road, Alpha Development Corporation. Amy, do you want to open it up
Sure.
and give us an overview here?
Sure. I'll start with past permit history, just so
Okay.
you understand. In November of 1992, an order of condition was issued for the construction of a single-family house, and waivers were granted to allow the house to be in the 50-foot no-build zone with a 20-foot no-cut zone and a 32-foot no-build zone with a stone wall at the 20-foot no-cut. DEP also issued a superseding order of conditions for this project, and certificates of compliance were issued by both the NACC and the DEP. I provided you guys with the as-built plan for 1997, just so you can have a comparison as to what things look like back then versus this updated NOI plan. So basically, a couple of months ago, this house was damaged by fire, rendering it uninhabitable. And the chairman, Lou Napoli, had provided authorization to issue an emergency certification to demolish the building only, to abate any hazards. The demolition hasn't happened yet, and the notice of intent pretty much caught up with things. So we have a notice of intent before you to demolish the building and rebuild on the same exact footprint of the foundation. No other changes are being proposed on the site. They're going to repave the driveway and install utilities, but the driveway will be in the same footprint. I conducted a site inspection with a representative from Norris Environmental, and note that the wetland line shifted about 10 feet closer to, farther away from, so it shrunk basically. The wetland line shrunk further towards the wetland, I guess you could call it, so that we have a larger buffer, and the no-cut zone looks to have experienced landscaping through the years. So we have some, cutting, mulching, and some ornamental trees, although some of them are native, but it's not like it's a natural wild no cut zone. It's a bit manicured. So we have Maureen Harold this evening with us. So if you have further questions for me or her.
Okay, let me go to the commission and see what happens. Joe Lynch.
I think I understand it. What I'm not clear on are the levels of erosion control that they're going to be putting in. Is it just is it Filtrex socks that we're putting in around there, or is it hay bales and silt fence? I'm seeing a line.
Well, erosion controls exist right now, and that's entrenched silt fence and straw wattle staked.
Okay, and so they're already in place because of the thought of demolition already taking, already have happened, but it never did.
Right.
So those erosion controls are there, and they're acceptable to you.
Yes, they're functioning fine.
Yeah, I mean, catastrophic fire. I have no question, as long as it's in the same footprint. They're entitled to it. I'm all set.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Deb.
No questions.
Thank you, Sean.
No questions.
Amy, I just have one question, and it's just because I'm curious. The determination that the wetland has shrunk, was that validated by soils?
I don't believe so. I spoke with Maureen this afternoon.
Okay.
And Noreen, if you want to speak to that.
Hi, good evening. So Steve Erickson went out with Amy and unfortunately he has back issues. And during the site visit, he could not auger. So I went back out there yesterday and I did auger in a few spots, and I believe the original delineation is correct. And that can be corrected. And just to let the commission know, the demolition did begin yesterday.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do I understand? In other words, are you agreeing with the shrinkage of the wetland by 10 feet, Maureen?
No.
No, I am not agreeing with it. The line that's shown on the plan should be closer to the house.
Okay, very good. So, do you think that requires a modified plan, an updated plan, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Just to have it right. Okay. That was the only question I had, and I appreciate your answer. I appreciate your candor on that. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to, Al, this is Deb. I just want to kind of like piggyback to your statement. I was led to believe that wetlands never ever shrink. How come this did?
I made a mistake, Deb. That's what essentially happened in the area where the discrepancy was. We just didn't check the soils in that spot, but that's a mistake we made. I checked them yesterday, and I can correct it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Deb, thank you. Sean.
Sean with us?
I hope so. Let's give him a minute, and Amy, if you want to shoot him a text.
Sure.
Or if you want me to shoot him a text.
Yeah, I got him. Okay, I will.
Okay, thank you.
And just so the commission knows, we received a waiver from the planning board because this is located within the Lake Kachikawick watershed area. And that was determined last night. So that's been resolved as well.
That's good to know. That's good information. Thank you. We just need, Maureen, we just need to get Sean back online and then we can move along. Okay, hold on. I hear my phone clicking here. Let me see. Sean is on the, he says he's calling back in now, but he has no questions. So I assume that to mean that we can move along with his telling me he has no questions. So Amy,
Mhm.
Sean is going to be calling back in, but based on Maureen's information with regard to the line, the only request that I would have is an amended plan to show the accurate wetland line and you know, updated setbacks and so forth. I have no other questions or other requests other than that.
And folks, I'm back if you can hear me.
Great,
Sean,
thank
we
you.
got you.
Yay! Excellent. Yep, sorry, I went to unmute myself and I hit the red button, which is the hang up button, so my bad.
So I just want to make sure, is the commission okay with the mulching and manicuring that's going on in the 20-foot?
Well, you know, I mean,
How's it
Why don't-
historically been handled? Has it been manicured throughout since the house was built there?
I would assume that maybe it was more wild and naturalized at the time of constructing the house. But I don't know.
Can you
I
look
guess
back at photos?
it's a question of how long, Amy. You know, what's the history on it? I guess that's that helps us make a decision.
Yeah. I mean, I can research aerials if you want to. I think
Can we? Let me ask you this: Can we continue this till the next meeting to get the updated plan, and then maybe you could have some information for us on the history of it?
Yes.
Would that be okay with everybody?
It is, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter. I shouldn't say that. It would be helpful even if the applicant had some history on it. That would be helpful as well.
Sure, I can try and find out from the previous homeowners on that. Regardless, I think we're okay with removing the mulch if the commission decides to go that way. So
Okay.
I guess it's whatever the pleasure of the board is, but I can provide that information, and I'd like to request a continuance for 2 weeks if possible.
Okay, that sounds good, Maureen. There's a request for a continuance for 2 weeks. Does anybody feel moved?
If we could have just a second or two more further discussion, Alan. I want to keep things moving as well as you do. But let me just take another look at the map. Is there a barrier there? Oh, there is an existing stone retaining wall. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Mhm.
Never mind. Okay, sorry.
And Al, this is Joe.
Yes.
Same continuing conversation. I think historical account of what the homeowner or prior homeowner did or didn't do is sort of not important to us. I mean, we really ought to look at what the original order of conditions said.
Okay.
We granted waivers, but I doubt we did that willy-nilly. We probably created a physical barrier, which is probably those stone walls, with the full intent that nothing down there could be modified, or tended to. So whether they did it or not in violation to the order of conditions, we don't know. But we should really just read what the original order of conditions said and allow them to do or not do.
So that's something that can happen over the next 2 weeks.
And that's something we're just doing with our own staff. I really don't want to put too much emphasis on what it is the potential violator may have thought they were doing, rightfully so. But I just don't want. I don't think that's germane to the question. It really is the landscaping in compliance or not? And if it's not, then we should not allow it with reconstruction.
Okay, I understand and I agree. So that's something that needs to be looked into over the next 2 weeks, along with the updating of the plan.
Sure, and if nobody else had any questions, I will continue for 2 weeks.
Thank you, Joe.
Actually, technically 3, because it's August 12th.
The next meeting, sorry, next meeting.
Deb?
Second. That's not Deb.
Okay, I had some background. I didn't hear who said it. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? There appears to be none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. Continue for 2 weeks. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Maureen.
Okay. Amy, I'm looking at 1 High Street and I don't see a DEP number there either.
No, we do not have a DEP file number for High Street.
Okay.
Probably worth opening and getting some initial discussion.
5 minutes. That's all we're gonna allow. So whoever wants to go for 5 minutes is welcome to go.
This is James LaCasse, Two Lake Management. If I could just say a quick word. I talked to Evan from DeRosa today, and she sent a check to DEP today, so we should be getting the file number any day now. So we can get back to you guys with that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right.
So just
Amy?
just a quick rundown. So this new notice of intent is to continue the East Mill Pond Aquatic Invasive Plant Treatment Program previously permitted under a 5-year order of conditions 242-1646, which expired this spring. Commission will recall issuing an enforcement order allowing for this first early summer treatment to occur while a new notice of intent was prepared. The EO required that the applicants submit the NOI no later than July 30th, and also required that results of an investigation of potential sources of E. coli bacteria, source and constituents of discharges emanating from the various pipe outlets found in the ponds, and the purpose and propose measures to address these inputs and abate their impacts to water quality to the greatest extent practicable. The new NOI is filed under a limited project, and they are requesting another 5-year approval, and they propose early and late summer monitoring with year-end reports. I list the chemicals that they're requesting, and there's 3 different herbicides and 1 algicide. The notice of intent briefly discusses E. coli inputs and attributed most of it to migratory bird populations. And I don't think the pipes were necessarily investigated. And that's all I have.
Okay. Joe, do you have any questions here?
No, it's the situation is not unusual for old mill properties, especially when they're on the water. I think understanding what the source contamination is very important for the overall health of the water body. But in the short term, I think the chemical treatment for invasive growth control is minor compared to the bacteria that they look at ultimately trace. But so what are we looking to continue because they have more study they need to do? What are they looking for from us tonight? And truth be told, I haven't read the 66-page report yet.
They don't have a DEP number, Joe, for status.
Well, I have 3 weeks to read this. I'm all set. I get some more questions.
Okay, very good.
The reason why we're here tonight is pretty much the order of condition expired, the current one we had. We're not looking to really change the program at all. We're keeping, the basic water quality program, the treatments per year, and the annual report. So we're really just here to, create pretty much a new order of conditions to move forward for the next 5 years.
Got it.
Okay.
So this is just to continue on with the existing program that you've been using, but you've gone beyond your extension allowances, and you're simply we're going to put another one in place. That's
exactly. And with water, the plant we're dealing with, water chestnut, it's a plant that you have to deal with for probably about a decade. So we're probably halfway through. So we've already decreased from 2 treatments to 1 treatment a year. So we're on the right path. We just need probably about 1 more of conditions.
Understood. Thank you. All set.
Yep.
Thank you, Joe. Deb?
No questions.
Okay. Sean?
No questions.
Okay. Amy?
No questions.
And I see that your recommendation is to continue the hearing pending DEP file number issuance and discuss other things. So I think we're ready for a motion to continue.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second there. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. It's continued. Thank you. Thank you all.
Great, thanks.
All right. My agenda is taking us, if it's correct, we're going to enforcement orders and violations now.
Yes.
Okay, 190 Farnham Street, continued from June 10th, 2020.
So the commission will recall issuing an enforcement order for the import of loam into a wetland. The enforcement order required that the applicant secure services of a wetland consultant to delineate the wetland and provide a report, which they have done. The wetland is basically currently mowed lawn, so the wetland flags are sort of in the lawn. The last two remaining issues that were discussed are the two sheds, one large shed and one small shed. The large shed was allowed to remain with the requirement of plantings at the westerly section of the property, which the administrator, Julie Perino, had reviewed and signed off on, and a certificate of compliance was issued for the septic system upgrade at the time. There's a small shed that does not appear to be permitted, and the homeowner has since informed me that it sits on a concrete pad, and I have confirmed that in the field, and he is asking that that remain as well. The commission asked that we look at historic aerials for getting a sense of how far or the extent of lawn through the years, and we have aerials from 1971 and 1978 that do show the lawn, I think in its current position to the north of the house. The westerly may have been more wooded at the time, and let's see. No. Okay. So I think it was, you know, the discussion was, well, how long has the lawn been there? And at least to the north, it's been there since 1971. And you know, the homeowners here with this evening, and I have recommendations unless you guys want to talk about it a little bit more.
Let me let the commissioners ask some questions.
Okay.
And let's see where the questions take us.
Okay.
Joe Lynch.
Yeah, I don't have any questions yet, but I may after I hear Amy's recommendations. I'm kind of reviewing the material, and I do remember this going back, you know, back into May, and I guess it really boils right down to is, you know, what was done when, and is this current violation extensive, or is it lesser as compared to what, you know, what the history shows? So, yeah. But it sounds to me like Amy may be pretty satisfied with at least to the northerly direction, the extent of the lawn, but not so much in the other direction. Are you unable to determine, Amy, the additional fill?
Well, I think it's not so much fill. I mean, I think there was a layer of loam that was brought in. It's not like it was feet of fill. It was a couple of inches. And I think the area to the west behind the septic system retaining wall is where the shrubs were supposed to have been planted to allow for the large shed to remain. And I don't think they're there anymore. So that, you know, that is.
So those shrubs were a condition to allow that shed to go in back in the day.
Right.
And since it was a condition, you know, if they've been removed, that may be an issue, of course.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have any questions at this point. Let's see what others have to say.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I'm interested in the small shed that has the concrete pad. I read in the report that the large shed was allowed to remain as based on a building permit from 1976, and it was signed off by Julie Perino. So I understand that. I don't understand the origin of the small shed. There's nothing in the story here that tells me when it was built, who built it, was it the same owner? I need to know. I need some information on that. If anybody can give me that.
I don't have a lot of information. Apologies on that.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. This is the homeowner. If I could add that information in. Yes.
Yeah, if you'll allow me just to ask you a couple of questions, just in the interest of moving this along. Were you the homeowner when the shed was installed?
No, I wasn't.
So when did you buy the house?
I bought it in 2016.
2016?
Yep.
Okay, and you did not install that shed? The shed came with the house? That
is correct. And as far as doing investigative work, that concrete pad was there since the 1970s. It was a gazebo prior, according to the gentleman that was here. The only gentleman on the street that is still alive and lives here when this entire place was developed.
Okay, so you utilized, the previous owner before you utilized the pad that had a gazebo on it and put a shed on it, and that was there when you purchased?
Potentially. Or the prior owner to that.
Okay, I guess the important part is I'm just trying to make sure that who built it, and you're telling me, and I accept your answer. You're telling me that it was there when you bought it, so I'm okay with that. That was the only question I had for right now. I'll come back later with some other ones if I have them. Deb.
Okay, Amy, I just wanted to know, with the larger shed, there was loam put around that, and then there were supposed to be plantings, but that didn't happen.
So the loam didn't go that far. The current situation with the loam, the shrubs were supposed to have been installed when Julie Perino was the agent. I don't know how long ago that was, but and the record indicates that Julie observed those shrubs and signed off, and then a certificate of compliance was issued. So,
are the shrubs there now?
No.
So did someone take them out?
Probably at some point.
Okay. And is there an impact, a negative impact, if the shrubs had been removed?
I think it's just it encourages lawn creep.
So would you recommend to have plantings then of shrubs around the larger shed?
I think so, because that was part of the deal, that you can keep the shed there as long as you replant the area. So
okay,
it's to remain consistent and in compliance with that previous decision.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Deb. Sean?
No questions, just ready for Amy's recommendation after all this. Let's hear it, Amy.
Okay.
Amy?
All right, well.
You're in the hot seat here.
I know. Yep. And I'm going
to drum roll.
Throw that hot potato of the small shed back to you. I'm going to defer to you guys. But I think if the pad's been there forever, I don't think it's the current homeowner's fault, and we could have a statute of limitations thing on it anyway. I would say that we should require that the wetland markers be installed at the westerly edge of the wetland near the large shed, and that mowing should cease in that area. The commission may wish to require replanting of the shrubs as was required for the large shed to remain, and require that wetland markers be installed along the existing edge of lawn to the north.
Now, Amy, do you have any indication anywhere as to any historical photos or anything that would indicate when that small shed appeared?
Maybe in the 90s, early 90s, there's like a fuzzy thing that you can see, but it's not the greatest clarity.
And what's the setback on that small shed? Where does it exist in distance to the wetland?
It's pretty much at or a little bit in the wetland.
So it's in the no disturb zone, or it's actually in the wetland?
It's probably half and half. There's a little corner that's in the wetland.
I mean, I have a problem with that. Unless I can get more information, I don't see that thing staying there. That's why I'm asking for some historical photos or something. I mean, I understand that this owner didn't put it there, but you know, that's good for this owner, but it doesn't mean it can stay. It's not automatic. It's not grandfathered. I guess I'm looking to. Are there any other positions on the commission that anybody that wants to be heard on that? Let's just talk about that small shed for a minute.
Does it go all the way back in all the photographs to 2001? It looks like it does, right? Amy? Yeah, no, there's a big one in 2001.
Yeah, the big one. Right. Yeah, it was hard for me to identify the small shed in you know, the older aerials. But.
So you don't have any idea at all, Amy?
I can't. Yeah, I can't get anything definitive. I apologize for that.
Okay. All right.
Well, in 2001, it doesn't appear that it's there, or is it just doesn't this picture catch that corner?
2017, 20. Oh, yeah, it's 20.
I mean,
2001.
See, I don't see it in the 2001 photo.
It's very hard to see. If it's there, it's you know, it's hidden by the trees.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, it's clear in 2020 and 2017. Actually, wait a minute. The very last photo of 2001, you can see a little structure. So at least 2001.
All right.
Which photo are you looking at, Amy? I'm trying to see what you're seeing.
Let me.
And I am having a hard time moving around here. 2017, 2020. I only see in what we have. I only see one 2001 photo. Oh no, there is a second one. Oh, now I see what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm looking.
You see that?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, can I put something out there and then try to move this thing along? If we're going to entertain the continued existence of the apparently unpermitted shed, the small shed, I'm going to want to see a more specific planting and mitigation plan, possible give back area markings. I want to see more. I want to see more coming this way to reasonably consider the existence of that shed. Does anybody have any comments on that?
No.
I'm agreeing with you, Al.
Yeah, that's my only comment is I agree. Yeah, we need to know more, and we're not there yet.
Okay. All right. So we're not gonna spend any more time on this as far as I'm concerned. Amy, this has to go back for more information and in the recommendations in order to issue an amended EO and allow for continued existence. There has to be some more mitigation, planting, give backs, etc.
All right.
And Al, just to circle around, looking at this more and the fact that it isn't permanent, I do lean more towards your original thing that I would have a hard time keeping it there if it's completely unpermitted, just because we see it going back to 2001.
Right. So that's why I'm saying I think we just need some more information here. I'm not ready to take any action on this at all without more information.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the homeowner, if I could.
Sure.
just really quickly again to keep it along, and I do apologize for taking the time, but if I do remove the shed and go through the expense of doing that, the only thing I'm looking to do, and basically was looking to do all along, was to maintain the existing lawn that historically was here since the property development. So if I do remove that shed from where it sits, can we close this and continue things as they were historically permitted and were put in place as the place was developed originally?
You know, that's a good offer, and that's a good question, and I think it just requires a little thought. Would you object if we continued it for 2 weeks and that we could come back with a reasonable?
I'm traveling for work again, and I'm going to be out pretty much the entirety of August, and I would just hate to see this thing stretched out and take up your time and so on.
No, understood. Okay, I understand. I guess if you're asking me, my answer would be if you remove that small shed, I probably would not object. Let me go down the commission. Joe Lynch.
Yeah, if it was the original lawn area and we can make a determination that was the case, but it looks like that loom brought in, I'm not sure we're ever going to determine how far into the wetland it was and what was original lawn and what wasn't. I don't know how we can get to the bottom of that unless Amy has got a good feel from it out in the field. Do you think you can make a determination?
Yeah, the loam didn't extend beyond existing lawn.
Got it. Okay. So short of erosion controls until the lawn's established, we've got it's a relatively flat yard, by the way. But it's something that we'd be inclined to allow. And if that's your opinion from the field, then I agree with that.
And I agree with that as well.
And I agree with that as well.
Okay, one more. Sean.
Did you need plantings around it on this as well, Amy?
Well, I think that the original shrubs that were required to allow the large shed to stay should be reestablished because. Okay. And the shed's gone, and you said looking at the aerial photos, the yard looks to be no bigger than it was going back as far as you could go back, right? Right. Do we want any barriers out there or anything to try to prevent any further or any further encroachment? Since it's already in, I don't even know if the word's encroachment. Well, I think some markers on the edge of lawn would be good, and maybe in front of the shrubs to the west.
Okay. This is what I was looking for. So, Amy or anybody from the commission, let's structure something right now that says, okay, the small shed goes, and what is the homeowner allowed to keep, and what do we want him to do? Let's structure it right now and move it. Okay.
And can I add something to the homeowner?
Yes. Go ahead.
Again, just sorry, real quickly. As far as the shrubbery, my understanding is next to the small shed was always lawn as well. That goes back historically back to the law development in the 70s. What they did when they did the 2001 septic tank, where their shrubs planted and they died, I have no idea. I really don't want to go through the expense of adding things that weren't there to be there or vice versa. As far as if we can make that determination of just keeping things historically accurate and the fact that they were grandfathered in prior to the introduction of the wetlands, Massachusetts bylaws and things like that. That's all I'm looking to do is just keep a nice lawn as it was when I bought the property and leave it where it is. Not do more, not do less, but just keep a nice property clean. That was the original intent.
So, Amy,
I think that's a reasonable request.
But I need to understand how the shrubs came to be. So there was a septic replacement plan that required an NOI back in, what was that date? How far back?
2001.
2001. So recent history. It was at that time Julie Perino was the agent.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep.
And in her review, found what we've been calling the larger shed. And as part of that review and part of that NOI and ultimately that order of conditions, was it an order of conditions, or did she administratively approved the septic replacement?
Oh, no, it was an order for the septic, and condition number.
So in that order, the requirement, or at least in the record, was to plant those shrubs. It's part of the permanent record. So when this homeowner bought it, just as they probably also had a septic system evaluation done prior to buying. You review the record, you review your title, and you see there's an order of conditions on it, and I think I hate to say it, it sounds like the shrubs are a requirement in the record and need to be there. Whether they don't want to put them in or not, it's sort of not germane. It's part of the compliance of this lot.
Right.
So I think the shrubs have to be there.
Yeah. So just say condition number 32 of that old order required that the shed be removed. They asked for a modification to that. The commission allowed for it, but required high bush blueberry plantings. And a letter of November 15th, 2002 by Julie Perino reviewed the high bush blueberries in the field and approved of them, and then the certificate of compliance was issued. So this is all documented.
Yeah, and high bush blueberries are not costly, and what I don't know is whether they're a victim of browse from the deer just coming in and wiping them out, or do they just simply die, or did someone cut them out? I don't know what the answer is, but
well, if we're talking about, again, do apologize for interrupting. This is the homeowner again. If we're talking about just planting a few inexpensive blackberry bushes to move this thing along, I'm 100% for it. And
yeah, that's what I'm driving at. Doesn't sound like we're talking about very costly landscaping. We're talking about some relatively inexpensive bushes that would suit the purpose, and we should move on.
If that's the case, I have no objection to that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm all set, Al.
All right, thank you, Joe. So Amy, just structure what you want to say on the amended EEO so we can.
Okay. Can I ask just one last question? I'm sorry.
Say it again.
Can I ask just one more question?
You can ask all the questions you want.
All right. So we have a concrete pad that this small shed is sitting on. Do you want the concrete pad out too, or just the shed?
Yes.
Well, in that case, that changes it a bit, because that's going to be a very costly undertaking. Because that pad was there since the 70s, and the fact that putting another 2 inches of loom and putting lawn where lawn is, it currently sits on lawn right now. That's one thing. Removing that concrete pad entirely is going to be an excavator job type of scenario.
Yeah, which would be excavation, and probably more. It would be in the wetlands. So I just want to make sure we're all clear what we're expecting. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that's the let. All right. Okay. All right. I gotta go back to the commission one more time then. Question is the pad. Joe Lynch.
If we can determine it was there in the 70s, then its grandfather and the pad can and probably ought to stay there. If we can't determine it, I think just like the shed moves, the pad should come out. But that changes everything, because now you got to put erosion controls in, because I think Amy said it's a piece of it's in the wetland. So it actually becomes more onerous, perhaps, to rip it out from an environmental perspective than simply, us doing the right thing and saying just leave it there.
Okay. All right. Understood. Deb?
I agree with Joe.
Okay. Sean?
Hey, Al, do you think we should get some pH testing out there?
I would say no, but thank you for asking. Thank you very much for considering that.
Well, I think we should probably, because I think Joe makes a good point, and I've never been a fan of that perspective by letting people keep something even though it's in violation. But he's not going to get he derives no benefit from that pad being there, and I do think ripping it out would be more of a detriment. So I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right.
All right.
with the caveat that the pad, nothing can go on it. You know, it's to become part of the landscape.
All right. So amended order to require removal of the small shed. The pad can stay. Replanting of high bush blueberries to the west and marking the edge of lawn with wetland markers. And that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Anybody?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just one thing, and that's the stabilization. So in the time that this has all started and up to now, has the seed taken hold and it's stabilized? There's no.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely starting to sprout up in June.
So no need for erosion controls is my point.
They're out there, so.
Oh, there are. Okay, I'm all set then.
Yep.
All right. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? There is none. It's unanimous. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you.
All right. 1470 Forest Street Extension. This is continued from 3/25/20.
So the commission will recall ratifying an enforcement order back in March. This site was sort of discovered by the building inspector through a complaint about a noise complaint, basically. So when we looked at the aerial photography, we, found that there was probably some wetland impacts going on there. We did a site inspection. I did a very limited reconnaissance at that time. Gathered enough information to say that, yeah, I suspect that there's definitely wetland impact. The site is being operated as a contractor's yard. So there's various construction materials that are, stockpiled there. We have, concrete pipe and steel beam, and we have just other bricks and other types of hardscape materials. More currently, there is a landscape contractor that is operating out of the site that has more recent active impacts to the wetland there. I conducted a site inspection with the wetland consultant, John Dick, today, and was able to kind of walk the entire wetland line. And I think there's two areas that I can say comfortably that I feel that there are wetland impacts that need to be addressed. One area is actually shown on the DEP's wetland change map that the consultant provided me today. And that's kind of right at behind the house where a lot of the landscape debris is being dumped. And there's an area to the west where there's about 2 or 3 feet of, fill that encroached into the wetland. I can't tell where the wetland line is, exactly in those areas, but it's fairly clear that, these two areas were, I think, need to be addressed.
Okay. And I'm reading your recommendation, and according to your recommendation, you want to continue this to allow the staff to further investigate the site, the timeline, and so forth. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, and I'm, John Dick is with us this evening, and we can give him 5 minutes, which is great. I think we should.
And let me just, I agree to that, but let me just say this to you.
Yeah.
I came on I became a member of this commission in 1990,
Yeah.
and the town's wetland protection bylaw was in place when I came on in 1990, because that was the first thing I was required to do as a new member of the commission, was to read and study the bylaw.
Okay.
So there's no question it was in effect when I came on, and I came on in November of 90.
Okay.
And that record is without question. So with regard to the bylaw being in place, it was in place when I came on, and it had gone on an appeal up to the SJC in Massachusetts prior to my tenure here in town of North Andover versus TDJ Development. That was a SJC decision that was made prior to me coming on, prior to 1990. So, and that was all about the bylaw, the 25 and the 50. So I don't think the argument that the bylaw wasn't in place, that's not a good argument. But let's get this thing going. Whoever wants to talk can have 5 minutes, and let's go.
That's not wood.
John, I see you, but you're muted.
I just seen him back in there.
You're still muted. There you go.
That work for you?
Yep.
I've prepared a brief report, 2-pager, pretty easy to follow. That's dated 19 July 2020, and I provided a copy of that to Amy last week. Last Monday. There is attached to that report 2 photographs, and the photographs are aerials from 1980 and 1990. The 1990 photograph shows the site entirely cleared, more or less as it is today, except for that wetland change area that Amy mentioned. The earlier photograph, the 1980, the scale's different, and it's kind of difficult to tell, but it looks like clearing activity was underway at that time. And that's consistent with the construction of the house in 1984. Now, at this time, all I know is what the assessor's records tell me. I haven't had a chance to look at the actual building permits. So I'm assuming that the assessor's records are correct and the house dates from 1984. I am also assuming, because I read the bylaw, that the bylaw in its present form was adopted by the commission in February of 1992. It doesn't tell me whether there was a bylaw in place before that time or not. That's simply what I'm reporting from the text of the bylaw I'm looking at now. So obviously there's more research that needs to be done. My initial position here is that a great deal of this filling predates regulatory supervision. 1983 was when they first promulgated regulations under the state law. I don't know when North Andover wrote their bylaw. I'd be interested to see the history on that, but again, it's not easy to winkle out. So yes, there's more work to be done. With Amy's forbearance, I'd like to work together on this for a little while, and I'd suggest that we kick this thing out a month so that we've got time to do a proper job of reporting on it. Right now, the site's nice and stable. There's nothing going on that's deleterious to the wetland other than what's already going on. And that's pretty much where we have it now. We don't know enough to make a rational decision about what needs to be replicated, where it needs to be replicated, if it needs to be replicated.
Okay.
And I'm going to
stop
now.
No, thank you. I appreciate your comments. I'm going to go to Joe.
Joe, are you with us?
Actually, I was, my mute was off. I actually turned it on to talk. I'm sorry. Yeah, patience is easy when we're trying to get to the bottom of something that perhaps has been going on for decades. You know, we want to get it right. We don't want to be hasty and get it wrong. So, yeah, if we need more time, we should take more time and make sure it's right and make sure if there's anything that needs to be done differently, that it's done differently in the correct way. So, yeah, I'm push out a month is fine by me.
Okay, Joe, thank you. Deb.
I agree with Joe.
Thank you, Deb. Sean.
No questions.
No questions from Sean. And I also agree with the request to push this out and due diligence on all sides. I have no objection. Amy, what would be the date we'd be looking at?
Let me look at our next meeting's the August 12th, which is only 3 weeks. And then after that, it's August 26th. So perhaps August 26th.
See if that works for the applicant.
That's fine by me. I'm not the applicant, I'm the applicant's representative, but I think I
Okay.
can speak for them that a month is a good amount of time to get something figured out here.
All right, let's shoot for that date, and if we have to kick it again, we can always do that. But let's try for that date and see how we do.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, so what'd you say it was, August what?
26th.
August 26th, so I need a motion.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and it's unanimous. Continue to August 26th. Thank you all.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Call with me.
Okay.
Good night.
242. Good night, sir. 242-1719 Mass Ave at Chickering Road, Mass DOT. Shocking. What's going on there?
Okay, so I had to end up issuing an enforcement order for dewatering problems at the site. The proposed retaining wall, the footing was basically in the groundwater, so they had to do dewatering to get that in, and built a couple of the courses. They had initially constructed a sedimentation basin for the dewatering, but with a couple of the really intense storms that overtopped and the capacity was taxed. So that triggered my enforcement order requiring frac tanks to be brought to the site. We talked about an altered dewatering plan, which now consists of a series of cells within the trench with check dams, and then using the frac tank when those cells get overwhelmed so that we don't have discharge into the stream. I required that the sedimentation basin be drained and decommissioned and filled, and that's been done. The frac tanks are on site. There are 2 areas of regular stormwater flow that enter this system. One from the Fernview
Yeah.
Ave condo entrance. That's just like over the road flow that just finds that little depression point at the beginning of that swale and enters there off the road. And then there is an existing drainage pipe that receives stormwater from catch basins from Mass Ave and Chickering that was slated to stay there throughout the construction process. And, that shoots water out during large storms. So those 2 inlets are sort of inputs that there's not much we can do about. They proposed to install a stone trench at the Fernview end to kind of slow the velocity of that input. And they built a stone check dam at the area where the drainage pipe discharges on the lower end of it. So we have those things in place. And I just wanted to make sure the commission was fully apprised of what was going on, and offer any other comments or amendments or recommendations. And
Okay, very good.
we have Amy Lynch and James Boyanos with us from DOT.
Okay, thank you for being here. Just hold on one. I'm going to go to the commission. Okay, Joe.
I had noticed when the frac tanks arrived on site, and I had pulled over and walked around and get a gander of it. So I got a personal eye view of exactly what Amy's describing, and it's not perfect, but it's not a bad thing that they're doing, and I think it's going to control it pretty well. So what I don't know is are they up and running at this point? Or are they waiting?
I said, you know, with those things in place, I said they could resume getting the wall installed, but with the understanding that the commission may have additional requirements.
Yeah, so I wasn't up that way at all today, but I think it was yesterday, last evening, and it looked like all the block was still stockpiled on the side of the road. So I don't believe they've recommenced wall construction.
Yeah.
I can give a quick update on that if you'd like.
Sure, thank
you. They did start the work today, since there was we wanted to try to get it done before any of these big storms come through again. So I believe they made a lot of progress today. They either finished it or have like 2 blocks left after today. So I would say there's one more day of dewatering possibly needed. Because I was up there this afternoon, but I'm not sure where they finished at the end of the day today. But yeah, most of the wall, the bottom layer of the wall, the rest can be done out, you know, it's above the groundwater level. So dewatering won't be needed for that section.
Okay, so that's good news. So that they made progress. They did use the frac tank. We don't see any other. I'm not hearing that you saw any impacts, but we're hoping there aren't any. But at this point, moving forward, the dewatering concern has pretty much gone away, at least on that aspect of the wall construction. Do you have any other deep excavations on that project that might be a concern, that you're keeping the frac tanks available for that purpose might be the right thing, or is all your deep excavation complete?
James, are you there? Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, I can chime in here. At this stage, we have almost all of our excavation completed. I believe we have a single manhole and a pair of gutter inlets which need to go in, which will involve some excavation. I don't know at what point you consider it to be deep, but they're minor by comparison.
So when I say deep, do you think that any further excavation might find yourself down in the groundwater where, you know, controlling a pumping operation during construction might be an environmental issue for us?
No.
I don't have any questions at this point.
All right, Joe, thank you. Deb?
No questions.
Okay, Sean?
All set here.
All right, I'm all set as well. Amy, I'm satisfied with the action you took, and I'm satisfied with the responses. I'm ready. If nobody else has any other questions or comments, I'm ready to entertain a motion to ratify the enforcement order as recommended on the page.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Amy, anything else you want in there other than what's in the recommendation?
No, just a friendly reminder that, you know, erosion control monitor needs to be on site during dewatering.
Yes.
Got it.
He was there today to watch that work. Yes.
Great.
Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And it's unanimous. That's ratified unanimous, Amy. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, James.
Thank you, guys.
No problem.
All right.
No problem at all.
300 Abbott Street, Sergeant School. Looks like it's the last thing on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, Amy, I'm not sure if anybody else was in the loop on the correspondence that went on with when Steve did his test pits and what he found. So my concern seems to be well-founded. Is there any realistic opportunity to put these infiltrators in a different location, a little further upstream, as opposed to the exact same location? Because I'd be more inclined to, you know, give them an emergency certification to do that, just so long as they're able to stay out of the water table.
Joe, this is Steve Foster. Can you hear me?
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Hi, Steve.
Good evening.
We've looked at that, Joe, and investigating it with another engineer to put another pair of eyes on it. We're at the lowest point of the site here, and to get infiltration up gradient from here is, I have to be pumping it, to be honest with you.
Okay, so yeah, you don't want to pump rainwater. Yeah, bad enough you have to pump sewer from time to time, but yeah, you don't want to be pumping stormwater. So now I'm going to get right to the heart of the regulation. So with the groundwater infiltration system, the separation to groundwater is principally driven for water quality. But it also is for maintenance, but principally driven for water quality. So we're capturing only roof water, clean water from a clean roof, and getting it down into the system. So,
Joe, one clarification, Joe, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah,
Joe, there's also a foundation drain that goes around the perimeter of the school that ties into the southeasterly system.
But all that's picking up is groundwater to begin with and conveying it, so that theoretically is clean as well. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's picking up, parking lot drainage or agricultural runoff or anything of the sort that you'd be concerned about contaminating the groundwater. So we're dealing with a clean, relatively clean water source. So it really is going to come right down to maintenance. So if you get down into that water table, whether you're using Caltech chambers or perforated pipe or whatever, you're going to be vulnerable to root intrusion. So what that's going to need, it's going to necessitate you guys doing more frequent inspections of that system. So if we allow it to go in the same place, and at the appropriate depth as best you can, even though you're not able to meet the 2 feet, I think you're going to have inspection ports at either end of each gallery of infiltration, so you can be able to get down and look at it and see if it's beginning to fail or not.
Yeah, that was the intent of the Stone Tech scheme, is that gave us that monitoring benefit. So I'm with you.
Yeah, so I mean, we've done what we needed to do, and it's not as though we're wasting money putting something that's going to fail. No, if you've got the inspection ports, you've got the ability to understand how it's deteriorating before it fails. So I think it's the best you can do, and none of us created the situation. We're just trying to resolve it.
So Joe,
so I'm all set with your approach. If that's what you're able to do, is in place, maintain as maximum separation as you can, and put the inspection ports in. And that's all I would ask for.
Yeah, and Joe, if I can add, in addition to that, what we're doing is installing a drain manhole at each one of these systems with a sump. Currently, they don't have sumps that would capture debris before it goes into the infiltrator. The other thing we're doing right at those distribution manholes is also put an outlet hood to preclude any material from heading up into the infiltrator as well. And thirdly, we're putting screens on all of the gutter inlets, downspout inlets at the gutter to preclude leaves and such from coming down. So it's belt and suspenders kind of thing where we're giving it some longevity.
Yeah, those are all great ideas, and I don't know what more you can do. So yeah, good luck. All set now.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Steve, how are you? I'm all set as well.
And
I'm going to send it down to Deb.
All set.
And Sean. Okay, thank you, Deb. Sean, all set?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Steve, it sounds good. It sounds like we're good. Amy, on this, what are you looking for from us here, Amy?
Well, I have a question first. So, are we talking about replacing the system exactly where it is?
That is the intent of repair in this, yes.
Okay. And so, Steve, the thought that we were talking about moving it up gradient between the two concrete sort of, surface for vehicular emergency vehicles to go through is not something, I mean, Joe, because we were just talking about that it's in lawn. It's probably you get a little relief from being in the groundwater, like 1.5 feet in some spots. So there's 2 test pits, and they weren't right where the existing system is. They were up gradient, closer to the building. So I just want to make sure you guys understood that.
Oh, I didn't understand that. I'm sorry. So they're up gradient.
Yes.
And even, I'm not sure how to say this. If you put it in the existing location, would these be not within 2 feet, or would they actually be in groundwater?
Probably be in groundwater.
Yeah, I can clarify that if you will. On the easterly test pit, we did the outlet invert of the system would be about 1 foot above the water table, as we observed on the modeling lines. Brian Grass was there and verified it. On the westerly side, the invert outlet of the infiltrator pipe is in the wetlands, below the modeling line.
By how much? I mean, is like half the infiltrating capacity lost, or?
Joe, the number's a statement at this point. I have that on a memo. Maybe it's Amy if you have it in front of you, but it was, I want to say, a foot and a half into below that modeling line.
And how big were these infiltrators? These are 4s or 36s?
These infiltration systems, they were about 170 foot in length, and there's 2 of them. And they were on the, like I say, the lowest gradient of the site. And they were, I believe, 12-inch diameter pipe with open joints, corrugated metal with open joints.
Yeah, but that's not what you're proposing to put in. You're looking to put in Caltex, right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The Caltex are we think the way to go. And Mr. Bajesi, I ran it by him. He seems to buy into that solution as well. So definitely the storm pick chambers, but exactly in the same horizontal and vertical location as they are our intent.
Yeah, I don't want the tail to be wagging the dog here, but the reality is we got a school that seems like it was one of the newest schools built, but son of a gun, it's 30 years old already, thereabouts. The old system worked somewhat. It collected water from the roof and put it in the ground somehow. But if we're doing that in the same way with a better system, and we're still in the water just like the old system was, and we have the ability to use inspection ports, simply stated is that during the drier season, they're going to infiltrate water completely, and during the wetter seasons, it's just going to lose certain amount of footage to infiltrate. It just becomes storage. It's better than what's been there for these past few decades. I think we've done diligence. I've asked you to do some stuff. You have. You know what you're dealing with. You're agreeing to do some BMPs as far as capturing debris and providing inspection ports and the ability to get in and maintain them, and to inspect them frequently and know when you need to maintain them. I'm not sure we can get anything else out of you guys. And that whole separation to groundwater is principally driven from water quality, as I said, and we're dealing with clean roof water and perimeter drainage. So I'm not sure what else we're going to get out of you guys.
Okay, so I just want to make sure you're okay with it going in the same location that it is, this new system.
Well, I'm basing that statement on Steve's earlier statement when he said to move it up gradient necessitates pumping. Is there?
No, it doesn't.
There's some place that you can put it up that you get it as high as you can without pumping?
Well, a clarification there, Joe. In general, if you asked me to put it somewhere on the site to get as far away from the wetlands as I could, I have to be pumping it. As Amy stated, we are slightly up gradient from where the system is off by about 10 feet, Amy, maybe 15, something like that. And we didn't want to get right on top of it. So we came up and we thought those were realistic locations to determine the high water table. So, again, clarification of where the water could go. Could it be moved, upgraded? I think probably. there's some utilities there. There's an access driveway. There's some trees we got to cut down to get it up gradient. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but if we can't go further, too far up gradient because we just won't make it by a gravity system.
Okay. So I hate to generalize, particularly with this is going to become an enforcement order telling you to do certain things. But our goal here is to get it as far upgrading as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, providing the maximum separation of groundwater is practicable.
Mm-hmm.
To that in a way that doesn't necessitate pumping and it avoids any other obstacles, site improvement obstacles, whether it's trees or furniture or whatnot. And if you can do all of those things, those are the best. So it wouldn't be in the same location. It would be it would be a location that accomplishes all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's dangerously vague, and Sean's going to jump on me, I bet.
Well, Amy, for the site, and from the trench infiltrator is now up into that concrete cheek wall that's the location of the perimeter access road.
Right.
We've only got, I'm going to say, 10 or 15 feet to play with. Right? Pretty accurate on that?
Between the two concrete things?
No, not between the concrete cheek wall nearest the wetlands and the trench drain. I'm going to say we got maybe 15 feet in that horizontal distance to play with.
Yeah, I thought you were talking maybe in between those concrete cheeks.
Well, that brings up, I have to get more information to see if the grades will work, number one. Okay. Is there a possibility? Sure is. But I haven't proven that out with any investigation that will say, yep, I can definitely put it there. I haven't done it because it does affect a water line that goes out there to a hydrant. And I don't know if the grades on existing piping would allow me to do it because they'll be in that area as well.
Okay.
So I can't say it right now definitively. Sorry, I haven't gone that far.
I guess just moving forward, just saying as far up gradient from the existing system as possible.
Yeah, and you and I can walk that line, Amy, and agree delineation. Open doing that.
Yep. If the commission's comfortable with that.
I think I'm comfortable with that, but we obviously want a document in the end. You want to, whether it's a sketch or a plan or something that shows where that system is going to be relocated to.
Yep.
I can get an as-built, Joe.
I mean, you're going to want to do that from a design perspective anyway, but we want it in the record too.
Yep, correct. No problem there. We'll take care of that.
All right, that sounds good. Anything else, Joe?
Nothing on my end.
Amy?
Nope.
All right. Deb?
Nope.
Sean?
Joe's all over it. I'm good.
All right. So is this an amendment to the enforcement order, or is this a new EO? What is this, Amy?
We can amend the enforcement order to reflect our discussion.
All right. So I hear a motion somewhere to amend.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. All set. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, Steve.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you, Steve.
Goodbye.
All right, Amy.
All right. So we have.
I don't see anything else on here.
Wait a minute. Yes, there's a couple things. So we have 35 Hawthorne order of conditions to look at.
Okay.
MACC annual dues to vote on, and I'm supposed to poke you for master plan implementation committee volunteer. So what do you want to tackle first?
All right, let's get the order of conditions out of the way.
All right.
Then the other stuff we can see what happens.
All right.
See, even holding people to 5 minutes, we're still going on 2.5 hours.
Oh, I know.
Imagine if we let them talk.
I know.
Imagine if we let that guy with the trees talk, we'd still be talking.
I know. All right, so, all right, I got, it's
Which address is this now that we're doing?
35 Hawthorne.
35 Hawthorne, okay, received. Yep.
Actually, I should probably reflect previous, the previous order of condition for the house. As, you know, finally.
I'm so tired. 35.
So I say, require that the pool infiltration system be a cartridge style, no wash. Bond of $1,500.
Okay.
Wetland markers. Let's see. To coordinate with conservation staff to mark the no disturb zone on mature trees. And then requiring any pool drawdown or discharge for, you know, winterization to be undertaken at least 1 week after any treatment of the water, and that it be overland on lawn and not directly into the wetland.
So there's no waivers here, right? It's outside the 50.
Exactly, yes. Right.
And it's outside the 200, right?
Yes.
So this is a good distance away from anything. So that's yeah. Like a level spreader on grass is perfect.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else they want in this order? Joseph?
No, I think it sounds pretty good.
Okay. Deb, any preferences here?
No additions.
Sean?
No questions.
Okay, I think we're ready to move this.
Move to adopt the order of conditions as drafted.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Great.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So we have annual MACC dues for our membership.
Okay.
So the commission's membership is $777, and there's additional $60 per staff. So 777 plus 120, 897. And then I don't know if you guys do the online e-handbook. Do you do prescriptions for that? Subscriptions, I'm sorry.
I don't know that we have one. I'm not aware of one.
Okay. I mean, you can buy them for yourselves if you want them. It's $15 per subscription. But if you don't use it, then we shouldn't spend the money on it.
It's anybody have any feelings one way or the other?
And it might be good for the office to have one.
Okay.
Yeah, the office should definitely have one.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm in favor of that.
Okay.
Good by me.
Okay.
Sounds unanimous to me, Amy.
All right. All right.
All right, so you need a motion
Yeah.
to appropriate from the filing fee account? Okay, anybody?
So moved.
I hear a motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. You have it.
Great, thank you. And then, so the Board of Selectmen has put together a master plan implementation committee, and they're looking for a volunteer from the Conservation Commission. The committee will be appointed by the Board of Selectmen, but it will consist of a member of the Board of Selectmen, the Concom, Affordable Housing Trust, Historical Commission, Planning Board, Youth and Rec Commission, and 3 at-large members. So, any takers for that seat?
When do they have to know by?
Well, I'd like to know sooner than later. The time commitment is about once a month. And I'm not sure that, I'm sure it's probably a remote meeting. And, you know, if you guys are reluctant, we could just kind of select Lou at the time being, just to stand in, and then we can think about it. I don't know if, you know.
I feel like I want to nominate Lou.
Well, last time Jack wasn't around, we nominated him, and we can't do that twice.
Yeah, we've already hit Jack pretty hard. I nominate Lou.
I nominate Deb. That way we keep her. She can't leave.
I was actually thinking that's right up Deb's alley, and she would have loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing is, I think Jack is going to take over my place for CPC.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay, neat.
I'll tell you what. I'll vote for Lou too. If I think I can find time to sit on that board and not have Lou do it, I'll try to do that. I'll just want to make sure. I just want to see if I could make that commitment. That's all.
Okay, well, we can just use Lou as a placeholder right now.
And we reserve the right to name an alternate.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Any other business?
No.
You have permission to sign.
Oh, that's right. That's the other thing. Yes. So a vote to authorize me to sign the decisions.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous, Amy. You have it.
Thank you so much. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody
guys.
good?
Good.
Any other business? Any other business that anybody wants to discuss at this time?
Yeah, Al, you started off before the meeting went public about something coming up in August that we need to acknowledge. Who's going to spearhead that? You and Amy will try to pull that together.
If it's acceptable to everybody, I'll work with Amy and Lou on it, and the 3 of us will come up with something.
Excellent. Just don't want to miss that.
And of course, there's never too many people on something like this. So anybody that wants to jump in, please do, because more is better.
Understood.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. I'm looking for a motion here.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you
Good
so
job,
much.
Al. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Talk in a couple weeks. Bye.
Good.
Care.
Good night.
Night.